U.S. President Donald Trump hinted to journalists that he has indeed decided to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. He made this statement on Monday, October 6th. Journalists asked whether the head of the White House had already made a decision regarding missile deliveries to Ukraine. To this, Trump replied,
"Yes, I guess they've made a decision, overall, if you think about it. I think I want to find out what they will do with them, where they will send them, probably. I would have to ask that question."
When a journalist clarified that Tomahawk missiles have a range of approximately 1,500 miles, which is about 2,400 kilometers, Trump noted that he does not want an escalation of the war in Ukraine.
No, I know, no. I would ask a few questions. I don't want an escalation. Putin threatened the U.S. with a break in relations if Washington supplies Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles.
There were questions related, for example, to the discussion of issues regarding the supply of new weapon systems, including long-range, high-precision systems, such as Tomahawks and so on. I have already said that this will lead to the destruction of our relations, or at the very least, the positive trends that have begun to emerge in these relations.
If Tomahawk missiles are transferred to Ukraine, they will be purchased from the U.S. and paid for by NATO countries. This was reported by Axios, citing a source close to the Ukrainian government. At the same time, the source said that in recent weeks, representatives of the Trump administration have expressed concerns about whether Washington would be able to control how Ukraine uses these missiles. Let us recall that, according to The Telegraph, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, during a closed-door meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, asked him to transfer Tomahawk missiles. Zelensky stated that they would help convince Putin to come to the negotiating table to discuss a peace agreement.
Russia would consider the supply of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine by the United States as a serious escalation. However, the Kremlin hopes that U.S. President Donald Trump wants a peaceful resolution. This was stated by the press secretary of the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, Dmitry Peskov. His statements are being reported by Russian media. He emphasized that it is important to wait for clearer statements if there will be any, and he reminded that Putin has already expressed his position on this matter.
Rumors circulate and then the statements are made. At least that's always been the case under the Biden administration. We know this very well. This time we'll see. But as for Moscow's official position, it was laid out quite clearly and unambiguously by President Putin at a very recent meeting within the framework of the Valdai Discussion Club. Everything was stated clearly there. This would be a serious escalation, which, however, will not be able to change the situation on the front lines.
He also said that we are talking about missiles that can also be equipped with nuclear warheads. He implied that this is yet another reason for a possible escalation. Let us recall that in a comment to Russian propagandist Pavel Zarubin, Putin stated that the supply of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine would destroy the positive trends in relations between Russia and the United States.
I have already stated that this will inevitably lead to the complete destruction of our important relations. Oh, duh. At any rate, the positive trends that have begun to emerge in these relations. So I'm just saying what I think. And how things will actually turn out depends not only on us and not only on me.
At the same time, the commander of the Akhmat Special Forces, Abdelaudin, expressed confidence during a live broadcast of Olga Skabiva's propaganda show that Ukraine would receive long-range Tomahawk missiles. Meanwhile, Trump stated that he, quote, has made a decision regarding the supply of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. He added that he still wants to find out more. What will the Ukrainians do with these missiles? Where will they send them? A new version of the Neptune cruise missile was unveiled in Ukraine. It was presented during a demonstration of the capabilities of the Ukrainian defense industry to NATO representatives. This version has likely not been mentioned in open sources before. This was reported by Defense Express. What stands out first is the unusual bulge in the middle of the body, which is why the missile was nicknamed the pot-bellied Neptune. The missile is significantly different from the standard R-360 anti-ship missile, as well as from its modification known as the Long Neptune. The bulge is likely fuel tanks, which allow the missile's range to be increased. It should be noted that the standard R-360 missile has a range of 280 kilometers, whereas the Long Neptune can hit targets at a distance of 1,000 kilometers. Defense Express notes that it is quite logical to assume that the pot-bellied Neptune has a range of 500 kilometers. It also cannot be ruled out that the new missile has a larger warhead than the base version. Earlier, the representative of the Ukrainian Navy, Dmytro Pletenchuk, reported that Ukrainian Neptune struck the enemy more than 50 times last year, but this was not always made public. He also added that the combat use of the Neptunes demonstrates successful results. The Ukrainian Navy is the sole operator of this system. Meanwhile, Ukraine may receive long-range Tomahawk missiles. US President Donald Trump stated that he, quote, has apparently made a decision regarding the supply of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. He added that he still wants to find out what the Ukrainians will do with these missiles and where they will send them.
In temporarily occupied Crimea, a large oil depot in Feodosia has been hit, which essentially serves as a major oil transshipment terminal. The fire has been burning for a second day. The smoke plume is visible from space. Out of more than 30 fuel tanks, only about 22 remain, because this isn't the first time it's been hit. And it is specifically tankers from Russia's Shadow Fleet that refuel there, noted the representative of the Ukrainian Navy, Captain Second Rank Dmytro Pletenchuk. According to him, civilians are already having problems refueling their cars. They're going through a find a gas station quest. He also said that not enough time has passed yet to objectively assess the results. And the results of such attacks are measured not only by the immediate consequences at the site of impact.
They are measured by the consequences for the future usability of these facilities. In other words, this should affect the supply balance, primarily for Russian troops in one of the directions with fuel, which of course is very important for the front.
Notably, the strike on the oil depot in Crimea happened on the eve of the birthday of the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. On October 7th, he turned 73 years old. According to his press secretary Dmitry Peskov, Putin will spend it at his workplace. His plans include a Security Council meeting and international calls with congratulations from leaders of other countries. Let us recall that in temporarily occupied Crimea, one of the first major attacks on the Crimean Bridge by the Ukrainian armed forces took place on October 8, 2022. At that time, using a truck packed with explosives, about 250 meters of the highway surface were destroyed, and 7 tank cars of a freight train caught fire. Traffic on the bridge was completely halted, which was the first such incident since it was opened.
Звуки взрывов слышали жители Воронежской области. Там летали дроны. В Российской Федерации заявили, украинские дроны пытались атаковать Нововоронежскую АЭС. При этом сами же утверждают, что дрон был подавлен российскими военными. Как сообщает Росэнергоатом,
в ночь с 6 на 7 октября в районе расположения Нововоронежской АЭС техническими средствами был подавлен боевой беспилотный летательный аппарат Вооруженных сил Украины. В результате, после столкновения с башенной испарительной градирни действующего энергоблока номер 6 Нововоронежской АЭС, произошла детонация БПЛА.
Разрушений пострадавших нет, из-за детонации остался темный след. Ранее 6 октября в Тюмени прозвучали взрывы. В информационном центре правительства региона рассказали, что на территории предприятия в микрорайоне Антипино обнаружили и обезвредили 3 дрона. Местные жители же утверждают, что слышали во время атаки 2 взрыва. При этом в соцсети появились видео с пожарными машинами, которые мчат по Тюмени. Согласно информации от местных жителей, под атакой мог оказаться нефтеперерабатывающий завод в Тюмени. Стоит отметить, Тюмень находится примерно за 1900 километров от украинской границы. Также в ночь на 6 октября в Российской Федерации произошел блэкаут. В городе Кринцы в Брянской области России местные жители сообщили о перебоях с электроэнергией. Там на местной теплоэлектростанции вспыхнул масштабный пожар.
Горит ТЭЦ вроде. Пламя с размером 5-го этажа плюс-минус. 4 громких взрыва.
В российском Белгороде также раздавались взрывы, после которых в городе исчез свет.
За синим зданием.
Ого, опять свет вырубили.
Тут света нет. Там света нет, но вывеска горит. Светофоры не работают. Тут везде темнота. Это центр города.
Тогда факт отсутствия электроэнергии подтвердил губернатор Белгородской области Вячеслав Гладков.
Lyudmila Putina tearfully pleaded with Vladimir Putin, insisting that his second term as president was a mistake. This is stated in an excerpt from the book The Tsar in Person by Roman Badanin and Mikhail Rubin, published by the Novosti agency on the 73rd birthday of the Russian dictator. The excerpt describes a meeting between director Igor Shadkan and Putin and his first wife in a hotel room in Mexico in the summer of 2004. During the conversation, Lyudmila Putina tearfully tried to convince her husband that his decision to run for a second term was a mistake. At the meeting in the Mexican hotel, according to Shadkan's acquaintance, there were 3 people present, the Putin couple and the director. Shadkan tried to persuade his old acquaintance that the country was heading in the wrong direction and that Putin was showing autocratic tendencies. And then something happened that the guests did not expect.
Lyudmila had a hysterical outburst. She, together with Shadkan, began to argue with her husband, insisting that he should not have run for another presidential term. Lyudmila was almost in tears. Putin was taken aback, as was Shadkan.
The director left the hotel, realizing he had witnessed a scene he was never meant to see. It was also clear that Lyudmila's fate was grim, since she had exposed family disagreements on an issue that was fundamental for Putin. This, the authors of the book write, was the true end of this family. The formal end came much later, on June 6, 2013. Then, Vladimir and Lyudmila Putin, giving a joint interview during the intermission of the premiere of the ballet Esmeralda at the Kremlin, publicly announced that their 30-year marriage was effectively over by mutual decision.
Our marriage is coming to an end, really, because we hardly ever see each other. Vladimir Vladimirovich is completely absorbed in his work.
At the very same time, Putin further explained that his demanding work involves complete public exposure, which not everyone can truly handle.